There will be no Sansa spinoff shows, and that's the end of it. Also, Sansa don't need no man. So this video, I just want to cover some interviews from Sophie Turner, Sansa's actress, because she said some really interesting things about Game of Thrones and her character in general. And first, I want to start with her saying that she doesn't think Sansa will ever have another man in her life. So she stated, "I hope Sansa would live in harmony with all the lords and ladies of the North, and I would hope that she had a nice life. But somehow I doubt that. I would hope that she would live happily ever after, and I don't think she would have another man in her life, because they haven't treated her particularly well in the past. So I'd like to think that she just runs the North on her own and eats good food and drinks good wine and just has a good time." Notice how she didn't say anything about women? Sansa is the first gay queen in the North. Slay it, girl. I really think, though, her not taking another man might cause issues. You know, there's something that involves men that leads to babies. I'm not sure exactly what it is because I'm very innocent, but when you do it, sometimes something pops out of you 9-ish months later. So if she never takes another man, she'll never produce an heir, which I guess there are other ways to get pregnant than that, but I see some conflict arising unless she's going to do what Bran decided for the Six Kingdoms, which is, alright, well, once my rule's done, all the lords will elect a new king, so maybe Sansa's gonna do that in the North. I can't wait to see the civil war that breaks out throughout the entirety of the Seven Kingdoms once Bran and Sansa's rule's done. Can we jump back to that show? Hilarious. Sophie also briefly talked about Sansa in relation to Jean Grey, which, by the way, if you haven't seen Dark Phoenix, I saw it recently. It's okay. I mean, go to a theater where you can drink alcohol or they serve it and knock back one or two and then just lower your expectations to nothing, and I think you'll enjoy it. At the very least, Sophie Turner is really good in it. Her acting is amazing as always, so I don't know. I didn't expect a lot, and I was okay with it. So comparing Jean Grey to Sansa, Sophie said, "Jean is very vulnerable, and Sansa is incredibly strong and resilient. So I would say I wish I was like Sansa, but really, I'm a bit more like Jean. I take a lot of inspiration from Sansa. Jean is more vulnerable and kind of finding her identity, and I think I relate to that." Sophie was then asked who would win in a fight, Sansa or Jean Grey. Oh, an ordinary girl? Or one of the most powerful mutants ever with superpowers? I wonder what Sophie said. Obviously, in a physical fight, Sophie said Jean Grey would waste Sansa, but she said as for emotionally manipulating, she thinks Sansa could get away with that and win. But overall, yeah, Jean Grey would curb stomp Sansa. I don't even know why that was a question. Who would win? A man with no arms and legs? On the ground? Or a grizzly bear? So next, let's go to Hollywood Reporter, who talked a bit with Sophie about the final season of Game of Thrones and her character in general. First, and adorably, Sophie said that Sansa will stay with her forever. "I haven't put her away at all. It's her resilience and her strength that I'm going to carry with me. I've never felt more empowered as a character than I have with Sansa. I think she'll stay with me for the rest of my life. All my formative years were spent playing Sansa. I think even if I tried, I couldn't shake her off." Which, yeah, you gotta think, what was she, 13 or 14 when she began playing Sansa, and then she played her till, what, 22, 23? That was all of her developing years playing that character, and I'm happy that she could take the strengths and good traits of Sansa and use that to help her become a stronger, better person in real life. That's a lot better than what we see with some other actors and actresses who kind of go downhill with where their character goes. Sophie also said that she was happy that the show started with the Starks and ended with the Starks, though I would argue it started Beyond the Wall with the Night's Watch party that was then decimated by the White Walkers, but I get what she means. The main family that it started with was the Starks. So on the end of the show, and when she first learned how the show was going to end, she said, "I really love that the story begins with the Starks and ends with the Starks. I like that John Kit Harington had to be the one to kill Daenerys, Emilia Clarke. Overall, I liked it. The thing is that for 10 years, everyone had an idea in their heads of what it was going to be and what they'd like it to be, and it's never going to be that thing. It's always going to be something that people don't expect. For me, I loved it, especially because of the way Sansa finished. It just felt like it was what her character deserved and wanted and needed all those years. She ended up in the place. She was always supposed to be in Winterfell, at home, and she's incredibly capable of ruling over there. It just felt right for her." So her comment about the show never going to be what people want it to be is a continuation of her telling everyone that didn't like the final season that basically we're throwing temper tantrums because we didn't get what we wanted. Okay. As for her being happy with how her character ended the show, I know a lot of actors and actresses really pull for their own characters and hope that they can have a happy ending. There's obviously differences. I mean, I've known actors that were super happy to see their character go through fucking hell, but I feel like it's pretty normal for her to be happy that Sansa had a relatively happy ending. For the what she deserved part, how many characters on Game of Thrones ever got what they really deserve? So yeah, I don't know if deserved is the word I would go with, though I'm sure there are plenty of people that would go with that word, and that's completely fine. That's the wonder of different opinions. They're opinions. Unless yours is different than someone else's, and then it's wrong. Though, and this is a bit interesting, Sophie's first scene for filming the final season was actually her coronation as Queen in the North, and that actually helped her be a lot more aggressive and protective of the North throughout the rest of filming, especially when she was in front of Dany and they were having their conflict. So Sophie shared about filming her Queen in the North scene, saying, "That was one of the first things I shot. It was a great way to begin, but it was strange because I didn't feel that sentimental when I was doing it, since it was just the beginning of season 8. I was thinking, we've still got 10 more months to shoot. But it felt really empowering, and it was a great way to start off the season, knowing that Sansa was going to be Queen in the North, and then owning that. It helped with shooting all the scenes with Dany where she's very much protecting her home. Winterfell felt more like it was mine than ever, so I became even more defensive in those scenes with Dany." I understand Sansa, after everything she went through, wanting the North as her home and not being controlled by outsiders. At the same time, I really think the Stark children, except for Jon, were kind of spoiled brats and not appreciative of Dany's efforts overall. Sansa was kind of a little bit of a snake bitch, is all I'm saying. But her outfit, hair, and crown, straight fire. Like, amazing. Sophie Turner can pull off anything, though. She's just amazing in general. On the opposite end, Sophie's last scene that she filmed was actually the Dragon Pit scene where Bran was being crowned king, and on that she shared, "My last day was the scene where we all decide to name Bran as king. We were in Spain, it was something like 5 or 6 day shoot, a ton of characters, and it was boiling hot. I just remember being incredibly conflicted and being like, I might faint, so I would like to rap, but I also never want to rap. I want to keep doing the scenes for the rest of my life. Once every setup finished, I would start crying because I thought it was the end. And then they would be like, all right, turning around, and I'd be like, oh fuck, we've got 5 more setups to go. So I'd have to reel it back in and compose myself. I loved the fact that my last line in the whole series was, the North will remain an independent kingdom as it was for thousands of years." Which, you actually might remember the photo of the Stark children airing themselves out between scenes, which was just absolutely amazing to see, and hopefully I posted it to either side of me right now so you can see it. I love it. Sansa does not skip leg day. Sophie also talked about Sansa mocking her uncle Edmure Tully and why she thought it was so hilarious, despite that not being a good thing to mock a Lord Paramount, but, you know, I guess when you're Sansa, you can do whatever the fuck you want. So she said, "Oh, totally. When I first read that line, I thought it was hilarious. I loved it, and it got such a great response from all the fans. It was just great. The whole series has everyone vying for this throne, and trying and trying and trying, and doing everything they can in so many wars and against so many people. He was someone who really could have held a claim to being king years ago, and Sansa just shut that down quickly. It's like, Uncle, you haven't been here for any of this. You don't even get a chance. I mean, besides Edmure being there for your brother and mother and cleaning up your brother's mess when he decided to stick his dick in the person he wasn't betrothed to. Yeah, I mean, Edmure didn't do anything. Arguably, Sansa, you were held captive longer than he was, so... Huh. Next, Sophie shared that she would never, ever, ever want a spin-off of Sansa, even 10 years in the future, because she believes it would only lead to more trauma for her character, which I absolutely agree with. If you're going to do a continuation of Sansa's story, in order to make it interesting, they're going to add drama to it, which unfortunately means Sansa will have to suffer more, and I think a lot of people just don't want to see that. So on ever doing a spin-off, she shared, "No. It's time for me to say goodbye. She's ended up in a place that I'm so happy with. I don't know. It would be different if someone actually came and said, we want to do a Sansa spin-off show, but I'm pretty sure I'd say no. It's been 10 years of watching this character grow, and she's at her peak right now. I'm sure if she carried on and did a spin-off show, it would just be downhill from there. She'd have to go through some other terrible traumas or something, and I don't want to do that." I feel like it would still be interesting, though, to see if she did actually ever marry anyone or how she got around that whole issue of an heir. I'd also like to see how she dealt with Lord Glover and just in general how the North is doing. But I feel like that can be solved through a little blurb, not actually doing a whole show about it. Sophie, for some reason, repeated that Sansa would never want to be Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. She's been saying that a lot lately, and she said it again, so I'll repeat what she said again in this recent interview. "I don't think Sansa would want to be Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. I don't think she would have been good at it, because she would have spent all her time in the North and concentrating on the North. That's where her heart lies and always has been." I don't know, do you remember that look on her face when Bran was picked to be the king or Tyrion suggested it? She kind of looked a little pissed, like she expected it to be her. So I don't know if I 100% believe that. Also, Sophie, Sansa wanted to be Queen of the Seven Kingdoms and Joffrey's wife for quite a bit. So I wouldn't say always belonged in the North. She was pretty happy to go south, so I don't know if I agree with you, but that's okay. Lastly, Sophie talked about working with Emilia, sharing, "It was really fun. I'd been desperate to work with Emilia for a while. You see her on screen, and it was strange because I'd never really, maybe once or twice, seen her in costume as Daenerys. So that was like a fan moment. It was awesome, and these two incredibly powerful women who have gone through so much in their lives and come out the other side stronger. Having them face off against each other was just amazing, because these women are stubborn as hell, and they won't back down. So it was always going to be very, very interesting to see how they interacted with one another. I know that if Dany had different intentions or if things went differently, then they would probably be friends in another world, in another time. I know that they would empower each other, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Although I would like to see a world where Dany ruled the South and she was married to Jon and Sansa was ruling the North, I just have a feeling those two ladies would totally just whip Jon to do whatever they wanted, and poor Jon. Escape beyond the wall. You got your best ending. Just get out of there. Alright, so that's it. Like, subscribe, and... What? Watch out behind you!